I am so sorry for the delay tonight. I know it's about 6 p.m. and this was supposed to start at 5:30. We did run into some technical difficulties, but welcome everyone to an evening with Mayor Allan Fung. Tonight I will be asking Mayor Fung some questions asked by the students of Rhode Island College, myself, and we also have a special guest dropping in at 6:20 with President Sanchez himself. So hello, Mayor Fung, how are you doing?
Hi, David. How are you doing? Very excited to be back virtually on campus.
Oh, yes, I am. It's not the same as a ghost town on campus, unfortunately, but I'm excited in case the fall semester we have face-to-face classes again, so I'm very excited for that. Thank you for joining us tonight. What I wanted to start off talking about tonight was your life way before you even went into RIC or high school, about when you were born. I know you were born in 1970, where you were the eldest of 3 children. Your parents opened the Kong Wen restaurant in Cranston on Cranston Street, and you have stated before in previous interviews you started working at the age of 9, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me and probably most people viewing. I was wondering, how did working at such an early age develop a strong work ethic, and how did that impact you in your future careers?
Everything that, was grown up in my background really helped me become the person that I am, and my commitment to public service. First, I'm very excited, to be a RIC grad and share the background of many other students. And my life is like many others that are walking on the campus or now virtually in the classes. What, I was able to develop at an early young age, coming from an immigrant family whose parents came from China back in 1969, and I was fortunate to be born in Providence when they came to this country. So I'm first generation born in the United States and a proud native Rhode Islander. One of the best parts about growing up in Rhode Island was sharing the experience that so many other Rhode Islanders have had. But that also included being part of an immigrant family where I was working hard in their restaurant. Yes, probably violated a few child labor laws, but that's okay because it made me the person that I am. Whether it was standing on that milk crate, washing dishes because I couldn't see over the sink, bussing tables, or just helping my parents cooking, waiting on customers. All those experiences helped develop me into the person that I am today. So as you can imagine, hard work was nothing. And it still is a lot of who I am.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I was going to ask, what was the biggest takeaway from your childhood or your upbringing that you still use today in life? But I know you sort of touched upon that, but is there anything else that you learned growing up that really made you the person you are, besides what you already mentioned, or really that you still apply to everything you do today?
A big part of it is being so close with my family. I really have a deep connection to them, and actually that's how I ended up at RIC. Just like many other individuals, I commuted, stayed home, but being on the campus, not only just studying, but having so many other activities to keep me there engaged, whether it was being treasurer of our student class, being involved on a tennis team, being involved in political, campaigns on campus, being part of student community government, being at the radio station, all of that has really developed a deep sense of connection for me and the campus. So a lot of my upbringing I owe to my family, because like many other RIC students, I transferred in. I didn't spend my first year on campus. I started out at the University of New Haven, but really missed my family, really missed my roots in Rhode Island, and ended up Rhode Island College was the right fit for me, and I'm so glad that I decided to transfer back.
It's funny, you touched upon some of the things that I was going to be discussing later, and you and I have a very similar background involving our experiences here at Rhode Island College, but I do have a couple of questions regarding RIC, but I'll move on to that later, because I want to congratulate you on the news last week that came out about you joining the Pannone, Lopes, Devereaux, and O'Gara law firm. Was this something that came about after your term ended in office, or is this something always in the back of your mind you thought about doing?
Well, I started out originally as a lawyer. Right after I finished Rhode Island College, I ended up going to law school, and Rick provided that great foundation where I had an opportunity to, work as well at my parents' restaurant, save some money. I knew I wanted to go to graduate school, and right away I went to Suffolk Law School. But just like coming back to Rhode Island for school, I wanted to come back to Rhode Island to practice law too. And I ended up starting as a lawyer, ended up in politics back in early 2000, and because I didn't like what was going on in Cranston back at that time. And now, after 12 years as mayor, I really am fortunate to land at a great firm with many good people practicing, going back to my roots, practicing law.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you have this new chapter in your life that you're going to be starting. I'm very excited to see what you do and to hear more news about you, what you'll be doing at the law firm, and congratulations on that. But going back to your earlier years, you graduated from Classical High School in 1988. And also in that class, which you're probably aware of, there was another person who ended up becoming a mayor in the state of Rhode Island with former Providence Mayor Angel Taveras, who was also in that class. What type of person were you in high school? Were you an involved person? And also, did you know the soon-to-be Mayor Taveras in that class?
Well, at high school, it was a little bit of a different experience because, I had to work in my family's restaurant, so I wasn't able to play as many sporting activities as I had the opportunity at Rick. I wasn't as involved in high school as I was at Rick. So, it was a different experience for me, but having a lot of close friends like Angel going through, the process of high school and growing up, in Providence was something that I'll always cherish, especially the education that I received at Classical. Both Angel and I, if you go back and look at our yearbooks, you wouldn't see politics. In fact, it was furthest from either of our minds. Both of us, though, wanted to be lawyers because we felt that it was a great way to be advocates. And Classical actually opened up the doors for me to want to stoke that passion to become a lawyer. I was part of their mock trial team, and doing the statewide mock trial program was something that really gave me the opportunity to advocate in a courtroom, and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun and ended up choosing at that time that is my career.
During middle school, I was part of my mock trial team as well, and unfortunately my high school didn't offer it. But the one year I did do it in middle school where it was offered, I absolutely enjoyed it, and it really inspired me what I wanted to do in the future. I may not be a justice studies major or be studying law or political science, but even as a communications major, even with this position right now as the president of the student government, I still want to help people, inform people, and do whatever I can to help anyone as much as possible. So that's very interesting that you and I both did the mock trial, and I agree it was a great experience, and I believe personally that it should be something that every school should be offering within the middle schools and high school districts of Rhode Island. I just think it's a really great venture for kids to go into.
Absolutely. And, one of the great things about it, too, is from a early age, and at that time that I was in high school, it wasn't even offered to everyone. It was only offered to upperclassmen and for 1 year. So you had to be a senior to be on that team. So now that it has expanded to middle school levels, and I think even possibly younger, it's a great opportunity for many students to really get on their feet and overcome some of that shyness that you have when you are younger. I can tell you, I was, that type of individuals that, it was difficult sometimes, making some friends, but being on your feet, being with a group of people, sharing a passion, it opened up myself and the ability to, be open with people and to, speak in public. So I hope a lot of people, if they haven't had the opportunity, do it.
I agree. I believe they should do that. In high school, what do you think the biggest takeaway should be from the students? Should it be the professors that really helped them, what they learned during that time? Because high school is a time where people really realize or really start to grow into who they become in life. What do you say is the biggest takeaway students should have within their high school years?
Try everything. And that's one of the great things that I loved about classical, because unlike many other schools in Providence, you didn't have to come from a particular area or section. Classical took people from all across Providence, all different walks of life. And you had the opportunity to compete both academically, but also make a lot of friends and try a lot of different activities. You know, now's the time, whether it's in high school or in college, that you really can grow as a person, but also not be afraid to jump into, you know, activities and clubs that might not be in your comfort zone. For me, it was great that I really wanted to be a lawyer in high school, but being part of other, you know, activities really, you know, taught me that I'm not a good singer. And, you know, so that wasn't going to be a career that I chose. But ultimately, you know, you have that experience, but meet different people too with different passions in their lives and see where they end up taking it with their talents.
You know, it's funny because I really wanted to be a lawyer too, actually. During my high school, I was really set on becoming a lawyer and possibly going to Harvard one day. And, you know, clearly that is not what happened. But I feel like everything does happen for a reason. And because of what I did and tried in high school and the friends I met and the activities I did with them really helped me make the person who I am today and the decisions I made. And I feel like I'm in a really great position right now because I was never one to be afraid or never go outside of my comfort zone. I was really always trying new things, even food. I'm not the pickiest of eaters, but even if it's a food I know I don't like, but it's made within something, I'll still try it, just as an example. Stuff like that I really love doing and stepping outside and really experiencing new things. So I'm very much like you in that sense, which is awesome. And I think everyone should really try to do something out of their comfort zone every once in a while. It could be very beneficial to them in the long run. So after high school, of course, you would go on to Rhode Island College, where you earn a Bachelor's of Arts degree in 1992. And while you're here at the college, I know you're involved in some clubs, orgs, activities, sports, as you mentioned before. You want to talk about your time here at Rhode Island College and what you did here and how you utilize your time the most?
No, it was the best experience of my life. And kind of like I said earlier, high school was a little bit of a different experience for me because I really had to be part of, you know, helping my family's restaurant, helping with my younger siblings. So it was a different time for me. Getting onto the Rick campus was a great opportunity for me to really open up, join a lot more other activities, make a lot of friends from not only just all throughout Rhode Island, but all across the country. It was a new experience where I got a chance to explore, but I loved it because it gave me the opportunity to not only get a great education. I know you mentioned Harvard, but I'd rather wear the purple and crimson that we have as our school colors any day, because it was a great education at a bargain for many Rhode Islanders that had to live the same and walk the same type of experiences that I had and that you have had. But playing tennis, making sure that I was part of government, making sure that I was an advocate and taking care of the finances for my junior and senior year classes, those are different experiences that I will cherish every single day of my life. And it was a great part in testament to the wonderful staff, educators, and administration at Rick.
Oh, without a doubt. I think there's so many great things that students can take advantage of and do here on campus with clubs, orgs, activities, and we have administration, faculty, and staff alike who really want to help these students have the best experience possible here. And part of me taking on this leadership role is because I want to make sure the students have the best possible experience. Not myself. If I have a okay experience, that's fine with me. But as long as I'm knowing other people are having the best experience they possibly could and venture in these avenues that are really here to help benefit them, That's what's really important at the end of the day. Me personally, I'm part of the Anchor newspaper here on campus. I'm part of the Anchor TV station. I'm part of 90.7 WXIN. I do this, of course, and I work part-time at the bookstore here. So I'm very involved, and honestly, if I was not involved, it would not really help me realize who I am as a person, really further my education because of the great friends and experience that I did have. And I really recommend for people to join clubs and activities, even if it's not student community government, but stuff you are interested in here on campus. We have a great environmental club here on campus. We have a great greenhouse here on campus. In fact, Rhode Island, our greenhouse here, actually at Rhode Island College, is the largest producer of bananas within the state, which is actually very fascinating, but maybe not a lot of students know that. We have a lot of great things here to offer. And I know you did mention the radio station before. Were you part of the radio station at some point?
Part of it, but I had a lot of friends that were part of it, and that was one of the great experiences. So while we were there late at night, everything was all part of that student union, and we were just going into each other's offices, really enjoying the experiences with our friends. That sense of camaraderie that we had, it was because of that RIC experience. So I spent many of after class experiences, as well as many nights in the radio station, watching my friends as they did their thing.
It's funny because I am a sophomore here, but I joined the radio station before I joined everything else. And that really was a precursor to what I would end up doing here as the president of the student government. The former president of the student government, Joshua Percy, introduced me to SCG here on campus, and he really inspired me to do this because I wasn't really aware of what they did, and realizing that SCG is the voice of the student body, here to help clubs, orgs, and students alike in any way, shape, or form that they can. That's what I really want to do, and that's my mission, I feel like, in life, is to really help as many people, especially here, my time at RIC, I'm going to utilize as much as possible so they really feel like they're getting what they deserve as a student here, and we offer a lot of great things here on campus. Another thing I wanted to ask you about Rhode Island College is, have you been to the campus, of course, before COVID, have you been to the campus at all, seen the changes? And if so, how is it different from when you were here as a student?
No, the campus has changed dramatically from the time that I was there. In fact, where I took a lot of my classes, my poli-sci classes in Craig Lee, has changed dramatically with all the construction that has happened there. And I was fortunate, probably about a year and a half ago, President Sanchez invited me back on campus, and I was able to take a tour with him to see everything that is going on, from the athletic fields that have been improved to Craig Lee, to some of the other buildings. It has grown by leaps and bounds, but it's wonderful to see that the college is trying to improve its infrastructures for all of its students, because as time change, we need to keep up and meet your demands for what you need, the access to technology, as well as just more opportunities to socialize on campus in a different way.
Yes, and I agree very much with those statements, Mayor Fung. I think it is very important that the accessibility of the students and what they are capable to do here on campus and what they have access to is very important and vital to their experience and what they would do after. And what I was wondering was, after you graduated from Rhode Island College, I know you went to Suffolk University, sorry, my apologies, and you went there. After you graduated from college and you were done with everything, how did you know what to do afterwards? Because usually sometimes people after college, they feel like they're sort of lost and really don't know what to do or really how to navigate their life afterwards. If you want to speak about that.
I knew right away that I wanted to go to law school. In fact, having those discussions with a lot of my professors, whether it was poli-sci professors, history professors, or anyone that really had that connect, that opened their doors to me, meant a lot to me. And that's one of the things that I found about the faculty and staff that were there. They would always welcome you, through their doors, have that conversation about where you wanted to go, and help set a roadmap to get there. And from day one, I knew that passion for law and advocating for people and fighting for people was always going to be in, my blood and what I wanted to do. And having conversations with different, professors, and I can remember someone like Professor Herbert Winter, who was in poli-sci, Professor Parada, who, was one of my law class professors, to even, some of the professors today that are still there in different departments, like Professor Ramaki in marketing. A lot of those individuals really encouraged me, saw the talent that was in me, and just kind of took it to that next level so that I can achieve my goals, do well on those LSATs, and make sure that I had great recommendations behind me so that I can get into the schools that I wanted to.
And I agree that you should have a vital connection with your professors and the faculty alike, because they really they're really here to help educate and also inspire these students into what they want to do. I know me personally, there's a few people here on campus, and I don't want to name anybody's names, who I absolutely love though, and who have really stuck to me, who have really made me realize, how passionate people here are on campus, and how important the students are to them, and how much they want us to see us succeed. I know a few people who have worked at radio stations outside of Rhode Island College for the state of Rhode Island, who have done a lot of great things. People who work for one of the major news networks here in Rhode Island, and thereon. In fact, the manager who did discover Christina Aguilera, the pop star, I don't know if you're familiar with her, he was actually started off at 90.7 WXIN, and stuff like that, where they started off here, and this is just a stepping stone into what they go into the future, and should really take what they learn as crucial as possible, and should be very critical in terms of the thought process about afterwards. So I agree with you on that. Of course, this is a student-run event, and I really want to ask some questions from the students, because I did send out a Google form to all of the students twice here at the college who did want to ask you a couple of questions. And my first two questions from the students actually come from a fellow colleague of mine at the Anchor newspaper, who I will not be naming, but he wants to know, who do you think Lieutenant Governor McKee should select as his successor?
Interesting question, because I know a lot of the individuals that are on that list, a lot of talented people. One of the individuals who I think, and as a fellow mayor, Central Falls Mayor Diosa, I think would, be a natural fit in that supporting role to now Governor McKee. As a mayor, as a chief executive, essentially, where you're managing budgets, managing people, you develop a lot of different skill sets that are necessary in that lieutenant governor's role to help, bring about and implement the policies that the governor wants to put forward. So he's definitely one, but I know that there have been a lot of great candidates on both sides of the aisle. A friend of mine who is ran for Secretary of State in the past, Chris Stanley, who's a teacher out in where he lives in Warren, is a fantastic candidate. So there's a lot of different people that put their names forward. Hopefully they get vetted, and Governor McKee has an opportunity to select someone who he's going to partner with and really lift the state up.
I think Governor McKee is going to be doing a great job as he serves as governor. We'll be selecting the right person for the position personally. I really believe that he's going to be doing as much as he possibly can as he serves. And speaking of great leaders, the president of the college, Frank Sanchez, is here, who would like to intervene and talk to us for a little bit. Hello, President Sanchez. How are you? Oh, you are muted, President Sanchez. President Sanchez, you are muted. We cannot hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
No, we cannot hear you. Well,
I'll write it in the chat room. How about that?
Hello, President Sanchez. Hi, we're good?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're all good. Thank you. Sorry for that. Hi,
no worries. Sorry. There's a little bit of a delay on my video. here. Happy Friday, Mayor Fung. Good to see you again. You know, I have just a couple of questions. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. You know, thank you for sharing your story, your background. It's a very inspiring story. And in a similar way, you know, college had a huge impact on me. You know, I'm curious, you were part of the tennis team, you were part of SCG, you had friends at the radio station. Certainly, you've talked a little bit about the faculty and the peers that you had and maybe coaches. I'm curious, were there any particular individuals, coaches, or professors that really had a significant impact and really changed your life, either as a mentor or someone you really went to help you through college? Were there any particular names you could share?
Actually, I think there were two that I'd like to share. One was my political science professor, Herbert Winter, and I think there is an award named after him. Professor Winter shared a lot in his class, and I took a lot of international relations classes with him, but he really stoked that passion about what goes on globally has an impact even in our great state of Rhode Island. And that, for me, left a lasting legacy, because as small of a state as we are, and as, you know, a great school like we have at Rick, individuals that come out of here can have a profound impact globally. And we've seen that from many of our alumni, and he was one of the ones that instilled that in me, and that's a lesson that I remember every single day. But the second individual that also I remember had a big impact on me was, and had a style that you have too, President Sanchez, and that was President Nazarian, who was there during my time. I'll never forget, from the first days on campus, he always made it a point to get to know me as a student, whether it was just asking my name, seeing me on campus, having lunch with me, or even just, you know, appearing at events. A lot of what you do as a student, that made a difference, because I saw that not only were the educators there, you know, wanting to help me in my life, but the administrators, and someone as important as the president, who I know is extremely busy, especially being a former chief executive myself, know the day-to-day operations, to take the time to spend with students, it really makes a difference. And that's how I've carried myself all throughout my career, especially during that time as mayor.
Yeah, well, we have just absolutely amazing students, Mayor, as you know. The other question I have, this will be my last question, but you know, this year in particular, I know a lot of our students, you know, they've been struggling. It's been a difficult last 12 months, and they've had an assortment of challenges and just obstacles this past year. I'm curious, when you were going to school, can you recall any particular challenge? What was your biggest challenge? And more importantly, how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, the first challenge, which is a joke, is, you know, parking, because I'm sure it's still a challenge in this day and age for commuters. But, you know, seriously though, one of the biggest challenges that I found was trying to make that work-life balance, because I know that I was always stressed with education and making sure that all of my assignments were done on time. But I wanted to have the full Rick experience and enjoying the opportunity to balance the tennis team, government, making sure that I represent my class well, to even just the time for socialization and making friends, and working and spending time with my family. My experience was just like the rest of the Rick student experience, I'm sure now too, but it's important because it taught me a lot to find time, be organized, but most important, make some time for myself too. And it's one of the things that I still try to do every single day. It's important to organize your day, go about. The stresses are always going to be there in life, but Rick really had a lot of resources to help me get through them too, and a lot of friends and networks that, you know, helped me get through then. But those friends I still have in my life in one capacity or another to this day.
Good. Well, again, it's good to see you, Mayor. Hey, I know we had a chance to see each other about a year and a half ago. We did a little tour of the campus, walked you through Craig Lee. We're very excited. In the next year, in fact, this time next year, we're going to be opening up Horace Mann after a $25 million modernization of a bond that was passed in 2018. And the last thing I'll say, and thanks to the good voters of Rhode Island, this past Tuesday, they just passed a bond measure that will give Rhode Island College $38 million to now modernize Clark Science, our primary science building. And so here in the next 24 to 36 months, I look forward to walking you through the brand new Clark Science building. But it's good to see you. Thanks so much for supporting our students. And David, continue to do the outstanding work as the president of the SCG. Thanks so much.
Great to see you again.
Thank you, President Sanchez. I really appreciate him coming out tonight, and I'm glad that you were able to touch base with him. He was telling me how excited he was about this event as well, and he wanted to come ask a couple of questions. I was like, of course you can come and ask a couple of questions, and I'm really happy that he was able to. So thank you again, President Sanchez. But as before President Sanchez did grace us with his presence, I was asking about some student questions that were submitted to me from here at Rhode Island College. Someone else wants to know, besides the people in your real life, what about historical figures? If you could meet one historical figure, and who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a very tough question. But, I've always answered Martin Luther King. I love the work that he has done all throughout his life, which sadly was cut, short tragically. But when you take a look at what he has accomplished, the fights that he had in that time decades ago, some of which we are still taking on to this day, was so critical to the fabric of our country and to each of our lives. Because if we didn't have someone like him that made sure that there was peaceful demonstrations, that voices were heard, we would still be walking miles down the road, but not to, with still many more miles to go instead of where we are today. So while there's been a lot of progress, an individual like him would be someone that I'd love to have dinner with and just chat and pick his brains about how he made a certain decision, why he made those and chose those impactful words for his speech, and whether or not he even knew that those words would have the connects that would resonate decades later.
I just think it's absolutely amazing how his words back then are just as relevant now and still as just as inspiring. And who knows what he could have done if his life wasn't unfortunately cut short. And he's a personal hero to me and a role model to me, and someone I would absolutely love to pick his brain as well and chat with him. That's a great choice. I really love that answer. I honestly do. I thought it'd be someone else, like more of a president. But you know what? I really love that answer, Mayor Fung. It's very interesting to me. Of course, something else that students want to know is you're someone you did support, former President Trump. They wanted to know your views on him, his term in office, and your thoughts on him currently now that he is out of the office.
Well, as a Republican, I did have the opportunity to support him and attended the inauguration. And I thought the president did some good for the economy. But as we saw towards the end of his administrations, what happened in that Capitol, really is disturbing. And, I even had the opportunity to call him out on social media, on Twitter, for not taking a more forceful stand. Because as a leader, whether it's president, governor, mayor, legislator, any person of power really has to have that opportunity to speak and try to quell when, actions like a riot are happening, especially when many of those individuals are supporters of you. So, that was definitely a black mark that sits on the history of, our country. It's a day that none of us will ever forget. I certainly won't. So that is something that's going to stand on his legacy, for generations to come.
I agree, and it's just one of those things that you see it, you witness it, even though you may not be there in person. It's just absolutely horrific what did occur that day, and it just no words can describe how I felt about that day, probably just like many other viewers who are watching. How realistic do you think it is for him, and the same student who did ask that question, how to follow up and wanted to know, how realistic is it for him, do you think, to run in any type of political campaign again with what did occur during his time in office?
And that's difficult to tell. You know, you're talking about an individual who at one point in his life was a Democrat. Then he used the Republican Party to win the presidency. And now he's talking about starting some third patriot party, you know, with his supporters to, you know, run again. Who knows what the future is going to hold? You know, that's what this democratic process is about. We as Americans are going to have the opportunity to put in the right person that we believe should represent all of us as a country. That's what, you know, this republic and a democratic set of values, you know, allows us to do.
Yeah, I agree that it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on, and it's up in the air of what will occur within the future. But speaking of politics, politics has not just affected your career, but also your personal life. Your amazing wife, who also has a background in politics, I want to congratulate her on her recent victory, where she won the election for the District 15 seat in the Rhode Island House of Representatives, where she defeated the Speaker of the House, Nicholas Mattiello. She was actually the first person in 114 years to defeat a speaker who was sitting, which is absolutely amazing to me, and the first ever woman to represent the district. How does she, as a fellow politician, inspire you and also what you do within your career?
I'm so proud of her. And, you know, many individuals, not just in the district, but she was always by my side when I was, you know, running for governor. Many people throughout the state saw her as my better half. But I'm so glad that, you know, the people in Cranston, particularly the voters in District 15, had the opportunity to see her and what she believed in, her own talents, her career, and really supported her message of change and making sure we bring back honest government. And, you know, to this day, 114 years, like you said, David, you know, it was an amazing feat. I was proud to be standing by her side, knocking at those, holding that clipboard, taking notes in that position and seeing her shine and letting people know what she believed in, what she wanted to do in healthcare, what she wanted to do in education, and now in office, seeing some of the bills that she's putting in that will help women, that will help businesses. I'm so proud of her, and I'm so glad that the voters saw who she was and supported her because of her abilities and capabilities.
That is just a lovely answer, and she is truly an inspiration to many, and based on her work, she really is an inspiration to me, to what she did, and one absolutely amazing defeat. 114 years, that is just, for me, just absolutely amazing. There was such a, there was that long period of time, that drought, when a sitting speaker was not defeated, and for her to do that and also be the first woman to represent the district, she is definitely being a great role model for many young people, especially who are interested in politics here in Rhode Island. And is it true you both met at the 2012 Republican National Convention?
Yes, it is. You know, Barbara Ann and I hadn't met before, even though she's from the Middletown, Newport area. And, you know, I've always been Providence, Cranston. But we were both delegates for Mitt Romney back in 2012. And by sheer coincidence, that first day of the convention was canceled because a hurricane was coming in. I happened to go down for a late lunch, walking by, and I got my head hit by someone opening an umbrella. And I was wondering, who's opening an umbrella with hurricane winds? I turned and looked. I'm like, oh, I better shut my mouth. And and that's how we met. Ended up having lunch that day, spent time at the convention together, and the rest is history. And here we are, you know, 9 years later, and she's my beautiful bride. And I'm so excited to have her by my side. You know, I love her dearly.
That's absolutely amazing, and that's just a story right there to show that fate really holds your future, and its destiny is bound to happen when it needs to. So that's just an absolutely lovely story. I just thought I would touch upon that because I saw that. I was like, that's absolutely very fascinating to me. You guys met there and not sooner. But another question that a student really wanted to know was about voting systems nationwide and also here in the state of Rhode Island. How could they be improved, and what implications do you see happen in voting systems within the near future to make it a more secure, safer, and easier process for the voters and the ballot places alike?
That's going to be key. And as mayor, I worked a lot with our, canvassers in that entire elections division within the city, and they worked with the state to ensure the integrity of our, electoral process. We've got a great head of canvassing, a Rick alum, who I believe sat in that same student community government president seat in Nick Lima. Nick right now is overseeing all of our elections, overseeing the staff, made sure that the last election for those important ballot initiatives, one of which President Sanchez mentioned, that just passed, went smoothly. But what's critically important is an ongoing basis. We have to ensure that security of that process, as we're getting more technical with our machine, with our voting process, is secured. We have seen, other outside forces from other countries wanting to influence our elections. So that's why it's critically important that at the local level, state level, and as a country, we have to do our part to ensure the integrity at all levels continue on, because this is one of our most sacred processes and rights that we have as American citizens to vote. And having it safeguarded in the best way possible is of paramount importance.
I agree. Every American should be serving their civic duty and voting within any election, either it be special, local, or a national level election. And I don't know if you want to comment on it, but I just find it absolutely fascinating how many mail-in ballots and the participants of civilians who may have not voted before, but because of the accessibility and the easy vote-in ballot and just mail it back, of how much of an increase there has been within activity from civilians and the government alike.
And mail ballot voting, in my opinion, has been here, and the increase of it shows that it's here to stay. So one of the important jobs that the Secretary of State and the local board of canvassers have to do is to ensure that our rolls are updated appropriately, because there are still people who have passed away or have moved on to, whether it's different states, different addresses, that still sit on some local rolls. And anytime that happens, there is the opportunity for some fraud that could occur. So this integrity of the election system relies upon many of those government officials that are charged with responsibilities to do their best and ensure that doesn't happen. So while it's great that we're looking at more mail ballots, or even having those discussions about early voting, the rolls have to be clean and the process has to be ensured that it's done correctly so that people trust the system.
I agree. It does need to be done correctly in a certain way in which people can trust. I know, of course, during the past 8 years, there has been a lot of distrust between the civilians and our national government. But one thing I do want to talk about, speaking of elections and voting, is that many students wanted to know is if you have any plans for 2022. The old saying is third time's the charm. So is there anything you would like to comment about or announce during this?
How did I know that question was coming up? No announcements on Fung 3.0 or anything tonight. Like you mentioned earlier, I just started a new job as a partner at a great law firm, Pannone Lopes, Deverona, Gara. So anyone that might need some legal work, feel free to, ping this Rick alum. But in all seriousness, I'm focused on that right now, but who knows what the future holds. I've always loved public service, loved and relished all 12 years that I, sat as mayor of our state's second largest city, helping so many wonderful people. While one chapter in Cranston is closed, who knows what, doors may open in the future.
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot with such a question, but the most popular question I did receive from students and submissions was that, and I was like, I need to ask it because I'm also curious myself. But one of the final questions I do want to ask you is, what is some of the hobbies or things that you are interested in that people may not know about you? Is there any activities you do that are not politically related that you are very invested in during your free time?
Absolutely. I'm a big sports fan, and I'll show you my chair. I'm a huge New England Patriots fan, although I have to admit, I did root for Tom Brady to win that, Super Bowl because I am a Tom fan. So, sports is part of my life, but let me just turn my camera. Another big part of my life that I love is, you can see hopefully that print of Marvel Comics that's autographed, by the way, by Stan Lee. I'm a big movie buff, but love Marvel Comics, Captain America, and the like. So, that's another, geekier side of me that I still carry with me from my young days. My first movie that I ever saw was Star Wars. So, being part of the movies and enjoying comic books, I still haven't grown out of that as an adult.
I love everything you said except the Patriots portion. I'm a Denver Broncos fan, unfortunately, here in New England. I know a lot of people are going to be saying a lot of things about that after this. But I was rooting for Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, so hopefully that makes up for what I did say about the Broncos being the best team in football right now and ever. But did you meet Stan Lee, though, to have that signed, or is that something that came pre-signed?
No, actually, I did met Stan Lee and took a photo of him actually signing it. He was at an event up in, I think it was Boston, that, I was it was younger during my college days, actually, and got a chance to take that photo as he's signing it. So I had that certified on the back. So that's pretty cool, lithograph that I have.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing, and I am into Marvel Comics myself, and also DC, and I really do like comic books myself. I saw all the movies in the theaters, probably just like everyone else. I know you probably did as well. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and you're a superhero in your own sense, serving the public community and what you have done for the town of Cranston and outside of that. The final question I do want to ask, though, is what's one piece of advice that you would give students in college right now who may be having a difficult time during the remote classrooms to really inspire them or really to get through these tough times?
You're not alone. There are a lot of resources to help you out, whether it's, the educators that are there, the faculty are there, or even the alumni. Don't ever be afraid to reach out because, I'm so glad, David, and I can't thank you enough for reaching out to me because I love sharing these experiences. I remember what it was like. I remember the stressors that you're going through. And while it's different, when you fast forward, a couple of decades later, this, same challenges are there, but in a different form. Sometimes even more stresses because of the onset of technology and everything's so quick. But the one thing that I realized, whether it was the time that I spent as a student there to now, there are people that care and that help. So don't be afraid to reach out. There's nothing that someone might not have gone through themselves that can help you out. And most importantly, as you progress on after college, we're continuing to help as alumni, that network of, RIC students, not just Rhode Island, but all across the country and all across the globe. We're always here to take that phone call, take that text, respond to that email that you might have, because we are one family, and I'm proud to be a RIC alum.
Well, Rick is a very strong community and family per se, especially with our alum, and you are such a wonderful alum, and I really want to thank you, Mayor Fung, for really taking the time tonight to come speak with me. I want to congratulate you on your new job, and I really look forward to the future of what you do and possibly something in 2022. Who knows what that would be, but I really want to thank you for taking time to speak with me and also hear what the students wanted to know from you at Rhode Island College. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Excited to be back on the Rick virtual campus. Hopefully, when Horace Mann opens back up, I'll have a chance to see it and, see many of your faces in person. But in the meantime, don't ever hesitate to reach out. I'm always available. Proud Rick alum here, class of '92.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Fung. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank our co-sponsors tonight, 90.7 WXIN, the radio station here at Rhode Island College, the Anchor TV here on campus, and also the Anchor newspaper. So thank you very much for viewing, and thank you all for participating. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.